Imagine you're a 25-year-old young woman who has been forced to perform since as long as she could walk.
She would love for new eyes to see her situation, but if she brings it up, she's constantly threatened that the conservators will take her kids away.
This little conspiracy going around that Britney Spears is being held against her will.
Maybe she is needing a conservatorship, and maybe her dad is helping, and these conspiracy theories are getting out of control.
That idea that Britney is a puppet who just gets moved around and told what to do is incredibly inaccurate.
It seems obvious that both Jamie and Lynn want her to get better. The conservatorship is in place to keep her healthy.
Raising children, doing all these tours, doing all these concerts. Someone who needs conservatorship is mentally incapacitated, and she is proven to do the opposite.
People manipulate young women, they manipulate kids. It's dark and demonic energy that this industry was built on.
Making anyone work against their will, taking all their possessions away, credit card, cash, phone, passport. The only similar thing to this is called sex trafficking.
I had let certain people into my life that were just bad people, and I was very guarded at first, but then I went to a point where I ended up letting them in because I was lonely or whatever the fact, and I really paid the consequences for that.
So I used to work as an entertainment journalist, and I covered Britney Spears for many years. I worked for Us Weekly magazine, for In Touch Weekly magazine. I had my own column in the red-eye edition of the Chicago Tribune. I have been sent to Kentwood, Louisiana many times to cover Britney. I've met Kevin Federline, I've met Jason Alexander, I've met several people that are close to Britney Spears. Even before her conservatorship, it was very clear that she was surrounded by people she couldn't trust, that she was manipulated, that she was too controlled. Even before she was taken to a mental facility and put into a 5150 hold, it was very clear that Britney Spears was the victim of some kind of abuse.
Mom and Dad are my biggest fans. They love it when I sing even more than I do. They tell me how to sacrifice, work hard, and never miss an audition. I owe them everything. And everything is just as it should be.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a beautiful girl named Britney. She could sing, dance, and do gymnastics, and everybody in the town loved listening to her perform. She would excel in everything she did, and to the outside world, she seemed to have it all. But home life was a hot mess. Britney's family were very poor. Her mom, Lynn, said they often had to rob Peter to pay Paul just to get by. Britney's dad, Jamie, had a really hard time getting his hands on money. After a long time of financial instability and a string of failed businesses, Jamie filed for bankruptcy. Lynn threatened to divorce him many times when Britney was just a kid. Then there were rumors that Jamie was messing around on Lynn. And it was no secret he loved to shine up that Pepsi Max. Sometimes when Jamie was in a drunken rage, things got pretty rough. This one time, he got as juiced up as Cooter Brown and tried to drive off with Britney when she was just 5 years old. Uncle Willie tried to reach down and grab the keys, but he got punched up instead. All while Britney was hysterical and crying in the back seat. One time, Jamie came home totally wasted and called Lynn a very naughty word. Then, he grabbed her glass of water and threw it across the room. This became just a normal day in the Spears home. But then Britney became a rich, famous, and beautiful pop princess, and they all lived happily ever after.
Britney grew up in the small town of Kentwood, Louisiana, and worked very hard as a young child to make it as a star. She started dance lessons at the fragile age of 3. Still today, her concerts are packed with adoring fans from all over the world, unaware they are complicit in a sinister and potentially criminal set of circumstances that have been playing out behind the scenes since it all began. In recent years, passionate fans have brought awareness to the now prevalent belief that Britney Spears is, at the very least, a victim of long-term financial fraud by the very people who claim to have her best interests in mind. Britney told us in her own words during her July 14th court appearance that she had abandonment issues from her childhood and has always been scared of her father.
Pop star said that there have been times in her life where she's been, quote, extremely scared of her dad. She wants him removed and charged with conservatorship abuse.
But just as things were nosediving for the Spears family, Britney crash-landed into the hearts of millions with her debut television appearance on Star Search.
Kentwood, Louisiana, here is 10-year-old Britney Spears.
Which then quickly led to her big break in 1992 as a cast member in the Mickey Mouse Club, alongside Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling. In a glittering cloud of showbiz fairy dust, she broke through her small-town southern ceiling and headed for the bright lights of LA, filled with all the hope and possibility in the world. But dragged along in the jet stream of Britney's meteoric rise was an unscrupulous and blood-sucking gang of bad actors who were already plotting to lay claim to her future estate. While investigating the deeply concerning details of Britney's forced conservatorship, her loyal fans unwittingly stumbled down a horrifying rabbit hole. Few would ever suspect that her own family might eventually become willing participants in a sprawling, potentially criminal conspiracy involving financial fraud, medical malpractice, involuntary servitude, and forced labor, leading all the way up to the upper echelons of Hollywood and Washington, D.C.
Now are you sure you want a piece of me? You want a piece of me?
Oh, where do we start with Lou Taylor? Okay, so Lou Taylor is the CEO of a company called TriStar Sports and Entertainment.
The best piece of advice I ever got from a mentor was to just do you. I know that sounds cliche, but it's really not. Don't worry about what other people are saying, and don't worry about what other people are saying about you. And don't worry about what other people are saying about you.
Court records show that Lou Taylor is the one that was able to convince Jamie Spears into putting Britney into a conservatorship. She actually was serving as a spokesperson for Britney Spears after Britney was thrown in the psych ward for the second time.
Lou Taylor is the business manager for Britney Spears' father, mother, and younger sister, Jamie Lynn. Lou, good morning to you.
Good morning, Meredith. Thanks for having me.
And what we also know, Michael Lohan and Courtney Love have come out and they said that Lou Taylor tried to get them involved in conservatorships. Michael Lohan said that Lou Taylor wanted Lindsay Lohan to go into rehab as an excuse to get Lindsay Lohan into a conservatorship. Lou Taylor could then, in effect, control her and her money, which is exactly what she has done to Britney Spears.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, how are you? Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm recording this. Can you explain how Lou Taylor conspired to get Lindsay under conservatorship without Lindsay even knowing what was happening?
I mean, she went behind Lindsay's back and tried to befriend Lindsay's mom, Dina, my ex-wife, the same way she did it with Britney's father. She does target the weakest link, so to speak. And of course, what better time to do it than when someone's in rehab to say that they have issues and they can't take care of themselves. When in fact, even when Lindsay was in rehab, she was in a place where she could take care of herself.
You know, sometimes you just end up having people around when you're younger in this industry just to have people there. Because you're always around people and then it can get very lonely.
Because I was lonely.
How were you able to prevent them from getting her under conservatorship?
TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group. How may I direct your call?
You know, I wanted information and she couldn't provide that information, and the information she did provide was kind of deflected, and she went on to another subject, so she didn't address the questions I asked. You know, Lindsay was always first and foremost my daughter, and that's all that mattered to me. So I didn't have access to the finances. I never got a penny or wanted a penny. I just wanted her to be in a good place and surrounded by good people. The people that came around her and the friends and leading her in the wrong direction, you know, it was hard. If they're a kid, you have to really keep an eye on them. Keep that leash as tight as you can. I can't get into my situation, but the truth will come out. The things they've done are really, really wrong, and they can't face the truth. They're blinded by the money, and that's horrible. But, you know, that's between them and God.
Oh, make me over.
Courtney Love has called Lou Taylor out for trying to get her under some kind of a conservatorship that would in effect control Kurt Cobain's image and his music. Somebody posted on her Instagram page, "Is it true that Lou Taylor, who planned the conservatorship for Britney with her father, wanted to put you in a conservatorship too?" Courtney replied, "Short answer is yes. Lou did try for a mutated strain of a conservatorship. She made an attempt to control Kurt's name and likeness in all Nirvana songs, then sell the publishing, by which time I'd be in a conservatorship or more likely, dead. I was successful at blocking only Lou, but not her buddies. Her pack of wolves almost killed me and my only child." There's a pattern with Lou Taylor. She always seems to be around when there is a celebrity that is going through struggles, who happen to have parents who are vulnerable, whether it be their own problems with addiction or financial struggles. Britney's team used all kinds of intimidation tactics against Britney fans.
So earlier this week, Breathe Heavy posted a story that first originated on Page 6, and it detailed Courtney Love's alleged experience with Lou Taylor.
Jordan Miller, who runs a Britney Spears fan site, Breathe Heavy, has been threatened not only by Jamie Spears, but also by Lou Taylor.
If you're a Britney Spears fan, you're well aware of Lou Taylor's presence and her alleged ties into Britney Spears' conservatorship. Courtney Love made some claims about Taylor that Taylor wants to go on the record and refute. Taylor sent me, through her legal counsel, a demand letter stating that if I don't retract the story, that I could be entangled in a legal battle with her. So because I don't want to be involved in any sort of legal drama with Taylor or in general, I've decided to comply, and I'm going to issue an apology.
All Jordan did was report about what Courtney Love said instead of going after the mainstream media outlet that actually originally covered the story. She went after a young Britney fan because they knew that some of these fans didn't necessarily have the money to fight a lawsuit against these powerful people.
Even though I don't personally feel like I should have to, that apologies should come from a sincere place in your heart. But I also understand what's at stake, and I'd rather just kind of keep things moving because there's a bigger picture here.
In July of 2011, just a few months after it was revealed Lou Taylor was officially part of Britney's team, Britney's charity, the Britney Spears Foundation, was reportedly zeroed out. According to liquidation records, $50,000 went to the Lou Taylor tied charity, Mercy Ministries.
The Hillsong Church is trying to distance itself from claims it's linked to a group which abused young women seeking help to overcome mental problems.
Rhiannon signed up to Mercy Ministries, suffering depression and seeking help. Instead, she says she became the victim of a Bible cult and held captive for 9 months.
Lou and her husband, Pastor Rob Taylor, have partnered with Mercy Ministries. They've helped the charity with financial funding, and they've been active participants in their events. When Lou represented supermodel Nikki Taylor, Nikki served as an honorary chair of Mercy Ministries.
Love you, man. Love you, Mercy.
Pastor Taylor's church, Calvary Chapel, even had Mercy listed on their site as part of their missions. The charity, according to their own website, claims to help young women with struggles, including women who have been victims of sexual abuse and, ironically, sex trafficking. In 2009, the Australia Mercy Ministries chapter had to return $120,000 for taking government aid from their patients, while falsely claiming they used licensed therapists. One member of Australia's parliament called the organization a, quote, particularly bad example of a money-making cult.
It's highly disturbing that money was taken from Britney Spears Foundation and was transferred to a quote-unquote foundation that is linked to Lou Taylor and riddled with corruption and abuse claims that were so bad that they had to shut down chapters and rename the charity.
So I really should be studying for the bar exam right now, but I'm too obsessed with this Free Britney stuff. So who do I send this to if I found all the original legal documents? July 10th, 2020, I made my first Free Britney video ever. A month and 2 days later, I found out Lou Taylor worked from 2004 to 2013 at Stonebridge Investment Counsel. Lou Taylor became Britney Spears' business manager between those years. She was also responsible for reporting to the Probate Court of California what Britney's conservatorship estate was worth. There wasn't anybody really over her. She was handling pretty much all the financial aspects of Britney Spears' life, while Lou Taylor was still an owner, manager, employee of, and registered investment advisor with Stonebridge. So she's kind of on both sides of this transaction, and there's really nobody above her checking her. You then have Jamie Lynn Spears as the trustee of Britney's SJB Trust, which nobody even knew.
Court documents show Jamie Lynn is now trustee of the pop princess's estate and must ensure it's used to protect Britney's 2 children if she passes away.
Britney Spears has been trapped in a conservatorship for over 12 years, and she can't trust anyone around her, not even her sister Jamie Lynn Spears, who has been going behind her back and working with her allegedly crazy business manager, Lou M. Taylor, to funnel some money from one of her largest trusts to one of Lou M. Taylor's business accounts. Well, it turns out in this filing, Jamie actually requested for the court to add Stonebridge Wealth Management to the trust. Why is this company that Lou M. Taylor is working for and a part of going into Britney's trust?
August 18th, Jamie Lynn Spears asked the court to move 100% of the assets from Britney's trust, her most valuable trust that was protecting all of her money, including cash, jewelry, clothing, cars. What they were trying to set the trust up to do, in my opinion, was to be able to operate completely free and clear of anything Britney Spears ever wanted. The way that that money would have moved would have been through Stonebridge Investment Counsel.
When BJ and Britney fans exposed the possible heist in progress, Jamie Lynn mysteriously reversed course and withdrew the petition she filed to move the money from Britney's trust into Lou Taylor's connected investment firm. It is very possible that Britney's fans actually saved her fortune by bringing attention to the possible attempted robbery that was underway. This was probably the moment when it became the most evident that Britney's sister and the rest of her family were knowingly complicit in her trafficking for their own personal gain. Lou Taylor has proudly displayed Prince as one of the many celebrities she represents, specifically dealing with the post-mortem rights of his estate. And court documents show she was paid over $200,000 for services rendered. Then, on January 2nd, 2021, a dispute was filed by the IRS, who claimed his estate had been undervalued by 50%.
The IRS saying it's worth $163.2 million and accuses administrators of undervaluing his assets by $80 million. Comerica Bank and Trust, overseeing the late music icon's estate, it claims it's worth just $82.3 million. The IRS wants the bank to pay up over $32 million in back taxes.
Little is known as to the extent of TriStar's role in the massive discrepancy, but it represents yet another instance of significant misappropriation of funds suffered by one of Lou Taylor's famous clients. As far back as 2015, Lou Taylor showed up in public records as a registered agent for Kylie Jenner's cosmetics company, King Kylie Holdings, and also Kim Kardashian's company, KKW Fragrance LLC. Kylie's company was then subsequently valued at $1.2 billion, and it was announced by Forbes that she had become the youngest ever self-made billionaire.
Kylie Jenner just cut a major deal. The 22-year-old of Keeping Up with the Kardashians fame, of course, has agreed to sell a majority stake in her cosmetics line to industry giant Coty for $600 million. And the deal values her brand in total $1.2 billion.
Her legions of loyal fans praised her for her entrepreneurial prowess and business acumen, not realizing they were watching another one of Lou Taylor's possible scams playing out. Coty bought the massive stake while seemingly doing very little of the due diligence needed to determine whether the valuation was accurate. They invested over $600 million of their shareholders' value to buy the stake, and according to the SEC, they completed the transaction in cash, an unusual event for acquisitions of that size. Lou Taylor was a registered agent for Kylie Cosmetics at the time, so it was likely she played a key role in brokering the sale. Coty's shareholders then called the deal into question after they realized Kylie's company had been grossly overvalued. Forbes even retracted their story, citing that she most likely showed them fake tax returns. Since then, lawsuits against both companies were brought against Coty by disgruntled shareholders who realized their investments were squandered on these toxic and suspicious deals. Now, this is where it gets really weird. Around the time of the 51% cash sale of King Kylie LLC by Coty, a huge and unusual payment hit the account of Stonebridge Investment Counsel in the amount of, you guessed it, approximately $600 million. After exposing the mysterious $600 million payment in Stonebridge, BJ was confronted by the chief counsel at her law firm, saying that they had been contacted by Lou Taylor, requesting that all BJ's videos be removed from the internet.
And I said, no.
BJ was told that Lou Taylor had become a client of the firm, so she was no longer allowed to make disparaging comments on social media. She refused and resigned from the firm.
It started to become very clear that I was about to have to start abiding by a totally different, unfair set of rules. I really just had to make the decision to walk away from the job. Looking back, that was just a huge scare tactic. And I was scared, and I am still a little scared. I just refused to allow them to ever be able to say that they fired me from that job, ever.
While Lou Taylor may be the head of the conservatorship snake, the rest of the Team Con parasites, like Sam Ingham, Vivian Thoreen, Judge Reva Getz, Judge Brenda Penny, Brian Spears, Larry Rudolph, Andrew Wallet, and Jamie Lynn have stood by and watched, each playing their part to convince the world that Britney is perfectly happy and that her money is safe. Perhaps saddest of all is that her own parents allowed themselves to be used as puppets to falsely portray a wholesome public image of a devoted family whose only interest is their daughter's well-being. The reality is they all conspired to propagate the hideous, widely accepted lie that Britney could not care for herself so they could continue to leech her hard-earned wealth in perpetuity. And they will continue to get away with it until a formal criminal investigation is done into Lou Taylor and her spiderweb of suspicious business dealings that citizen journalists in the Free Britney movement have been exposing for years.
You want a piece of me?
Official documents show that Jamie Spears' law firm, Holland & Knight, billed the conservatorship for roughly $1.5 million over just an 8-month period, all paid for with Britney's money. Listed among the expenses was a hefty price tag of $500,000 designated for Media Matters, a fund many believe was set aside to confront the rising tide of public anger directed against Jamie Spears and Britney's management team. So, lawyers who Britney did not choose were taking money she did not give them to steer a public narrative that would ensure they could keep getting paid indefinitely.
1, 2, 3.
News agencies were guided along 3 core narratives favorable to the conservatorship. In order for the corrupt and unjustified conservatorship to remain in place, Britney needed to be deemed mentally incapacitated. This is why the primary public relations strategy for the conservatorship has always been to keep pushing the lie that Britney is unable to care for herself, even though her flawless nightly performances and other lucrative public appearances show a high level of competency and professionalism. Awareness of Britney's plight is quickly approaching critical mass, but compromised news agencies are still working tirelessly to push the same old script.
Because you've probably heard there are some stories last week that she was being held against her will. Obviously, here she is out and about. Clearly, she's not a prisoner at this facility.
She's not.
Making anyone work against their will, taking all their possessions away, credit card, cash, phone, passport card, and placing them in a home. I work 7 days a week, no days off, which in California, the only similar thing to this is called sex trafficking.
I mean, she checked herself in with some pretty deep-seated trouble.
I'm sorry, Brittany, you have to listen to your doctors. They are planning to send you to a small home in Beverly Hills to do a small rehab program that we're going to make up for you. You're going to pay $60,000 a month for this.
He runs her conservatorship and has for more than 10 years, and she is very close to him.
I cried on the phone for an hour, and he loved every minute of it. The control he had over someone as powerful as me to hurt his own daughter 100,000%, he loved it.
Part of the tailspin was getting off a regular schedule with her medication.
He immediately, the next day, put me on lithium out of nowhere. And lithium is a very, very strong and completely different medication compared to what I was used to. You can go mentally impaired if you take too much.
She has never been formally diagnosed with being bipolar, but there are signs that it mimics that at the very least.
Right.
I've been so angry and I cry every day. It concerns me. I'm told I'm not allowed to expose the people who did this to me. For my sanity, I need the judge to approve me to do an interview where I can be heard on what they did to me.
This conservatorship will go on indefinitely, probably for the rest of her life.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
News agencies likely benefiting from her millions want you to believe that Britney has had full autonomy over her own life and can do as she pleases. In an interview with CNN's Chloe Malaz conducted with Britney advocates in May that never aired, Chloe insisted that Britney is not a prisoner.
What I have been told repeatedly from people that, work on Britney's side is that she is not a prisoner in her home.
Mentioned also was a report in 2019 that Britney told Judge Brenda Penny that she feared her own father, which Chloe denied ever seeing.
Why do you think she went down there if she hates her dad so much and hates the conservatorship and is scared of him? Like, what do you guys think about that?
CNN did not air the moment BJ set the record straight, pointing out that this report had in fact come from Chloe herself.
That was not public. And in fact, one of the sources that reported that was you. So I read it in a CNN report.
Because I don't know what you're talking about right now. So I would love to see that with my name on it.
This leaked tape clearly reveals Chloe's journalistic indifference when Britney herself claimed she was at risk and exposes CNN's clear bias in pushing a narrative favorable to the fraudulent conservatorship. As reckless as CNN's coverage has been, most Britney advocates would agree that TMZ is by far the worst offender. For years, TMZ has acted more as a publicist for Jamie Spears than an independent news outlet.
Free Britney, as in remove the conservatorship, I think it's pretty obvious that the conservatorship is still necessary. So it's vital.
TMZ founder Harvey Levin has even credited Jamie for saving Britney's life.
Britney was circling the drain.
Oh, absolutely.
It was desperate, where Jamie thought he was going to get a call from the coroner. If Britney didn't have this conservatorship, Britney might not be alive today.
In stark contrast to what CNN and TMZ have rigorously maintained, Britney has testified that her father ruined her life, and most shocking of all, that she believes that he and the management team were trying to kill her. Control of Britney's social media accounts are also essential to protect the racket and to prevent her from accidentally saying too much. A company called CrowdSurf has managed Britney's social media accounts for almost the entire conservatorship, and Cassie Petrie has uploaded posts to Britney's pages. We now know that her team has routinely used her social media to lie to her fans and drive a narrative that protects the conservatorship at Britney's expense. It appears Cassie may have even used Britney's Twitter page to wish herself a happy birthday in 2011. It also should be noted that many Britney advocates critical of the conservatorship have had their social media posts censored, removed, or in some cases, their entire accounts taken down. This shows there was not only coordination with Britney's team and the mainstream media, but also with big tech to silence her supporters. If not for Britney's most loyal fans, the story of her forced conservatorship may have never seen the light of day. It was they who went searching for court filings and followed the money. It was they who discovered the names and faces of the traffickers who locked Britney up and threw away the key. It is no wonder that her most outspoken fans would become public enemy number one and face intense scorn from bad actors who stood to lose the most.
There's nothing I love more than our pop princess Britney Spears and a good old conspiracy theory.
Now her father Jamie is sounding off about that hashtag Free Britney, telling critics they don't know what they're talking about.
All these conspiracy theorists don't know anything.
Since the very first Britney fan took to the street in protest against the injustice they had discovered, compromised news outlets portrayed them as crazy, deranged conspiracy theorists with no friends and too much time on their hands. A classic humiliation for anyone in history brave enough to speak truth to power. If they can knowingly hide the truth about Britney's tragic situation and allow her to remain a victim of grave injustice at the hands of corrupt business entities, then, as a discerning public, we must ask the question: what else have they been lying about?
Do you want a piece of me?
If there was one good thing to come out of Britney's tragic story, it's that national attention is now focused on the hideous underbelly of Hollywood and the systemic corruption and abuse of the entertainment industry as a whole. Young stars who came up with Britney have spoken out about the abuse they suffered at the hands of powerful industry executives. Disney should have been the safest place for aspiring child entertainers looking for a dream, but it became one of the worst offenders instead. The media giant's disturbing track record of employing and giving free passes to child molesters or people with a history of dangerous behavior towards children is well documented. Disney hired convicted child rapist Victor Salva to direct the film Powder.
In the city where dreams are made, fame can come at a price.
My first memory of when the abuse started and, eventually progressed over the next 5 years. Videotape all of it. I mean, it was full blown.
When they found out, Nathan's family went to the police and Salva was convicted and jailed. But that hasn't affected his Hollywood career. Powder, one of the scripts he wrote in prison, was distributed by Disney's Buena Vista Pictures.
The company claims they did not know Salva was a convicted pedophile until after the production started, but then refused to fire him even after they learned of the crime.
And big names in Hollywood have been backing him throughout the entire process. It just seems like there's like an exclusive club, and Victor's a part of that club.
In 2018, Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn received nationwide condemnation for shocking comments he posted on social media, in which he made light of child sexual abuse. He was fired after intense public pressure.
The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James's Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him.
But then, Disney once again demonstrated their indifference by hiring him back as soon as the issue had faded from the news.
Hollywood might not like talking about it, but it doesn't take a lot of digging to find even more examples of how it often has selective amnesia when it comes to some of the past behavior of those it chooses to welcome into the fold.
One of the more shocking revelations was a 2017 report revealing 35 Disney employees had been arrested for child sex crimes since 2006. In 2004, the New York Times revealed a highly coordinated child trafficking syndicate at Disneyland, where victims would be identified with yellow dresses before being picked up and sold to organized criminals.
I'm Bella Thorne from Shake It Up. And you're watching Disney Channel.
Bella Thorne, another Disney star just like Britney, has openly discussed the abuse she endured as a child performer in the Hollywood system, and explained how everyone saw but said nothing.
Getting molested from your 6 to your 14 seems like way harder circumstances, or being physically abused all the time seems like a much more difficult situation than have paparazzi following you since you were 12. I was still being molested when paparazzi were still following me, but having no idea the type of mistreatment that I was still dealing with at that time, that everyone around me saw and did nothing.
The pattern of entertainment companies targeting talented children of vulnerable parents can be seen in the case of another former Mickey Mouse Club star, Christina Aguilera. She was abused by her father. Her mother, Shelley Kearns, recounts finding Christina as a child with blood on her face after her dad punished her.
And I go upstairs, and there's my 4-year-old girl, and she has blood going down her chin.
Former child movie star Mina Savari recently opened up about the abuse she sustained in the industry.
Laced throughout her stories of sexual abuse through a series of bad relationships.
You describe at 12 losing your virginity against your will, essentially.
Mm-hmm. A part of me died that day for sure.
As well as an inappropriate encounter with alleged pedophile Kevin Spacey on the set of American Beauty. Longtime Britney pal, Paris Hilton, detailed abuse she suffered at the Provo Canyon School in her documentary, This Is Paris, and during a deposition hearing.
Children were restrained, hit, thrown into walls, strangled, and sexually abused regularly at Provo. I was verbally, mentally, and physically abused on a daily basis. I was cut off from the outside world and stripped of all of my human rights. I could not report this because all communication with my family was monitored and censored. This is unconstitutional, degrading, and terrifying.
Singer Kaya Jones said the Pussycat Dolls was a prostitution ring, and the group's founder, Robin Antin, who launched another girl group called GRL with Britney's former manager, Larry Rudolph, was the, quote, den mother from hell.
Today I want to talk about a controversial topic. My conservatorship case.
Amanda Bynes, who is also in a controversial conservatorship, tweeted she was sexually abused by her father, but then took the comment back. She worked alongside Dan Schneider at Nickelodeon, who resigned after several allegations of abuse and very inappropriate behavior surfaced. Underpinning every one of these reported instances of abuse is the code of silence that governs the industry. These rules of secrecy are so strictly upheld that powerful abusers have been able to perpetrate their sickening crimes with total immunity for their entire careers. Cindy McCain, wife of the late Republican senator, admitted they all knew of Jeffrey Epstein's child sex trafficking through the years.
Epstein was hiding in plain sight. We all knew about him. We all knew what he was doing. But we had no one that was,
and acknowledged that people remained silent, even after Epstein's first conviction, allowing the pedophile to continue his reign of terror against young victims for several years without consequence. This is exceptionally alarming since Cindy McCain sits as the head of the McCain Institute, an organization that claims to combat trafficking. Not only would A-list stars turn a blind eye to Hollywood's most vicious abusers, they would openly praise and elevate them to untouchable status.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski.
Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, God bless him.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us and made this movie.
Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Thank you, Harvey Weinstein. Especially Harvey.
I want to thank Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Harvey.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, who had the guts, the courage, the commitment.
Especially Harvey Weinstein, a man of dedication and vision.
Harvey Weinstein. Well, listen, so...
Researchers and Free Britney advocates went on a quest to find justice for just one person, and in so doing, uncovered the evil tricks and methods used to force young entertainers into a life of abuse and involuntary servitude, even as millions of unaware fans buy their records and unwittingly participate in the crime. Could Kanye be next? The hip-hop star's public outbursts were well documented, but the parallels between his situation and that of Britney and Lindsay Lohan are striking. Lou Taylor began business ties with his mother-in-law,
Kris Jenner. Come on in.
Do you have any further comments about Caitlyn Jenner?
We start this half hour with word that Kanye West is waking up in a Los Angeles hospital where he's now under observation, reportedly for exhaustion and stress.
After what the media reported was a, quote, public meltdown in 2016, he was forced into a 5150 hold, a legal framework that allows others to step in and make decisions on their behalf. Sources close to Kanye have told this documentary they believed he had been drugged and set up, and that this 5150 hold was an attempt to get control of his kids and money. Later in 2020, Kanye tweeted that, quote, Kim was sending doctors to 5150 him and lock him up. A frightening accusation, especially after we already learned that Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner both had businesses managed by none other than Lou Taylor. It's also worth noting that Kris and Kim are currently working with Eden Yemeni and his Israeli security company Black Box that allegedly facilitated the secret surveillance that took place in Britney's home. Britney's story has created enough public awareness to protect other stars from this corrupt strategy of hijacking famous estates. Anyone who believes in equal justice, Britney fans or not, should now demand full and expansive criminal investigations into all who architected, perpetrated, and knowingly benefited from these hideous acts of fraud and abuse. Otherwise, everything the Free Britney movement fought for will have been in vain.
You want a piece of me, piece of me.
The web of Britney's conservatorship corruption is tied to many powerful members of the political establishment, from low-level players all the way to the White House. On February 8, 2016, Lou Taylor donated $2,500 to the Democratic National Committee. Only 10 days later, Britney was paraded in front of cameras for a photo op with then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton to give her political campaign a boost, a moment where Britney's discomfort could hardly be mistaken. In a leaked email released by WikiLeaks, we learn that heads of the Democratic National Committee were aware that Britney was being forced to work against her will and that her team wouldn't allow her to quit because she was making too much money. Lauren Durham wrote this about Britney to the DNC finance chairman, Jordan Kaplan. She's a poor soccer kid who wanted to quit the game and be normal a long time ago, but her parents, manager, lawyers won't let because she's too much of a cash cow. So even though powerful players were aware of Britney's enslavement, they not only remained silent, but had no problem using her as a political tool to endorse a presidential candidate during an election year. Vice President Kamala Harris served as California's Attorney General for 6 years of Britney's conservatorship. As Attorney General, Kamala Harris and her office ignored requests from Britney advocates to take action. Nina Simone's granddaughter claimed that Harris was involved in the stealing of the late blues singer's estate.
The granddaughter of legendary singer Nina Simone blames Kamala Harris for taking away the estate from her family while she served as California's Attorney General. In one tweet she wrote, "Nina's granddaughter here. My family doesn't run her estate anymore. It was taken away from us and given to white people. Our family name was dragged in the media. We get no royalties, nothing. Want to hold someone accountable? Ask Kamala Harris why she came from my family."
And to this day, the vice president has remained silent on Free Britney. Multiple law firms working for Jamie, such as Sidley Austin and Holland and Knight, which are hugely benefiting from the conservatorship, are also donors to the DNC. Holland and Knight hired former U.S. Congressman Ron Klein, who is earning $1,285 per hour, charged directly to Britney's conservatorship. Some politicians have raised their voices in support of Britney. Senator Elizabeth Warren recently called for the Department of Housing and Homeland Security Secretary Xavier Becerra to review Britney's conservatorship data, initially viewed as an encouraging development in the fight to free Britney. However, this hope was short-lived when Free Britney advocates noted that Becerra had consistently ignored calls to help Britney when he took over as California's Attorney General in the seat left by Kamala Harris. Representative Matt Gaetz was the first member of Congress to speak out in support of Britney.
I do believe the nation was quite taken with the control that the guardianship and conservatorship process has on far too many Americans. I am glad Britney Spears got to speak out on this issue finally yesterday.
He accused his congressional colleagues of indifference to the issue of abusive conservatorships and claimed they were actually blocking an investigation into Britney's situation.
And I would reiterate the call to Chairman Nadler to allow us to hold hearings on conservatorship abuse, and I think the very first witness before the Judiciary Committee should be Britney Spears. Free Britney, I yield back.
Now we're going to have the latest on Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. He's facing an FBI investigation over allegations of a relationship with an underage girl.
Soon after his statements, Gaetz was accused of using a site called Seeking Arrangements to traffic a 17-year-old girl. Though no victims ever came forward to corroborate the claims, and Seeking Arrangements have since made a public statement saying he never had an account.
And I won't be extorted by a former DOJ official and the crooks he is working with.
The case also resulted in the indictment of Stephen Alford, who attempted to extort Gaetz over the matter. Some Free Britney fans have suggested this could have been an attempt to silence him from future advocacy in support of Britney's freedom. A clear demonstration of the conspiracy to silence Britney's supporters can be found in the case of John Eardley, the only honest lawyer who worked aggressively to stand up for Britney's constitutional rights. In February of 2008, after he was hired by Britney, Eardley claimed that someone wrestled the phone away from her during a phone conversation. Then, on February 12th, Eardley filed a petition to refer Britney's case to the U.S. District Court, saying he was concerned for her emotional and physical safety and that she was being deprived of her constitutional rights. Sadly, this petition was mysteriously denied by U.S. District Judge Philip Gutierrez, who stated, without any formal examination or proof, that Britney was not mentally fit to retain her own counsel. Eardley's spokesman, Michael Sands, stated that the theft was on a grand scale, involving racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering. Sands later said that as a result of Eardley's advocacy for Britney's freedom, his office was broken into and files were deleted from his computer, a clear sign of organized criminal elements working to protect the perpetrators of the massive fraud taking place in Britney's estate. Eardley was eventually sanctioned for persistently challenging Jamie Spears' control over Britney's affairs, resulting in him losing his law license. And in one final crushing blow to prevent John Eardley from ever winning justice for Britney, Judge Aviva K. Bobb approved a restraining order preventing him from having any contact with Britney. In true organized crime fashion, compromised and unscrupulous lawyers are needed to protect the guilty, while silencing victims at every turn. Few are worse than Blair Burke. She represented Britney in 2007, and then her father in 2009, violating state bar ethics codes. In that same year, Burke gave testimony that helped cement the conservatorship and also assisted in securing the restraining order against John Eardley. She falsely claimed that Britney did not know Eardley or want him as her attorney, even though a voicemail recording from Britney herself reveals the opposite.
Britney Spears wants John Herbert to represent me to put my conservatorship of honor to a very kind of sound mind and body, and I feel I've been held against my will. That my civil rights have been violated, and I was to exercise the constitutional rights.
Burke has a long history of helping pedophiles and rapists. She represented Harvey Weinstein and reportedly helped him frame his victims, and is reportedly spearheading Prince Andrew's U.S. legal team. Bipartisan Representatives Charlie Crist and Nancy Mace have proposed a piece of legislation questionably named the Free Britney Act to reform conservatorship abuse. Advocates in the Free Britney movement were quick to speak out against the bill, recognizing it for what it was: a transparent attempt to obtain limitless funding while simply placing victims of abusive conservatorships under full government control. Lawmakers have admitted that the act would lead to no criminal investigations or have any power to bring Britney's conservator parasites to justice.
Will the victims of guardianship abuse be able to see any sort of criminal charges?
Not a part of this legislation, correct, Charlie?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Charlie Crist and his many conflicts of interest have become the focus of heavy scrutiny by advocates in the Free Britney movement. He served as the district attorney when the negotiations started for Jeffrey Epstein's infamous sweetheart deal, and was accused of taking bribes from Scott Rothstein, who is currently incarcerated for running one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history. Crist was so close to Rothstein that he often frequented his home and attended his 2008 wedding at the Versace mansion. Lou Pearlman was the manager for boy bands NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, notorious for accusations from young men who claim he molested them or sought to exchange sex to help with their careers. He was accused of forcing the young performers to work long hours, with rehearsals up to 8 hours straight in poor conditions, paying each member of NSYNC only $10,000 after 2 years of grueling work and 10 million records sold, far below minimum wage.
Some light at the end of a long, dark tunnel for investors through a scam by boy band legend and Ponzi schemer Lou Pearlman.
In 2006, investigators discovered Pearlman had defrauded investors out of more than $1 billion. Charlie Crist was accused of delaying and interfering with investigations into Pearlman when he was Florida Attorney General.
Why is this guy, who's the Attorney General, not interested in this huge scam with thousands of victims?
For years, Charlie Crist had all the power needed to stop the horrific exploitation and abuse of countless victims. But he did nothing. It is no wonder that the Free Britney bill is a complete and utter sham, designed only to deflect from the powerful criminals who trafficked Britney Spears into a life of forced servitude for nearly 2 decades. For her whole life, Britney was set up by evil vipers in every direction. It is disturbing beyond words that anyone, especially her own family, could be so motivated by pure greed that they would willingly dehumanize her to the extent that they did, treating her as nothing more than an unlimited ATM for their luxurious lifestyle. Thanks to the passionate devotion of her fans, it appears a long-awaited resolution to Britney's involuntary conservatorship is near. What Britney's horrific story has taught us, however, is that our fight against the injustice of human trafficking can never end. We were shown through Britney's ordeal that institutional corruption extends into every level of power, even to the highest office in the land. We learned that organized criminals can be rich, famous, and powerful, and protected at the highest levels by people who eloquently preach morality on TV, while practicing the opposite in private. Britney's fans are American heroes. They stood up not just for a beloved pop princess and a national treasure who defined a generation, but for the constitutionally guaranteed rights of every citizen, no matter who they are or how they voted. Free Britney will forever be a defining moment in our culture when we came together as a nation, set aside our differences, and remembered what truly unites us all.
Early morning, she wakes up, paints a smile on its top part of the show, keeping cool composure, bites her tongue, tries to be someone she doesn't even know. Isn't she lovely, this Hollywood girl? And they say she's so lucky, all that fame and all that money, but the truth is pretty ugly, so she cries. And they